Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Talking Music, sponsored by Village Rising Community Conversation Series. My name is Clarence Johnson III, saxophonist, and happy to be with you again this evening. Over the last few episodes, we've had the fortunes to discuss and have conversations with the movers and shakers of the music scene and industry, and some great players. And this week is no different. We have a chance to, go behind the music, talk to the artists, get to know them a little better, get to know what's going on with the creative process, go behind the scenes of the things and the experiences that they've went through. The people that they've worked with, their own projects, how they evolved, and the things that they learn from each of those experiences, and pretty much centrally based around the New Orleans scene and how that kind of translated to influencing the scene well beyond the borders of New Orleans, Louisiana. And this afternoon or this evening, whenever you are watching this, it gives me great pleasure to bring on this week's guest, great colleague of mine I've known for many years, all the way back to high school. I don't know if you want to get into that, but I'm talking about a great saxophonist in his own right, and we come from that saxophone fraternity. I'm talking about Mr. Derek Douget. Mr. Douget, welcome.
What's happening, man?
Hey,
thank you, sir.
Of course.
Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you. Thanks for being with us, man. So, yes, you're a saxophonist, and we've actually run into some similar circles during the course of the past few years. And I got to tell the story, man. We actually met back in All-State. Louisiana Music Education All-State Jazz Ensemble.
Man, that was a lifetime ago.
Many moons ago.
Lifetime.
Ago. Yes, indeed, man. So let's start from there. Let's start from the beginning, man. Where are you from, and how'd you get started with this music thing, and take us from there.
Sure. Again, it's a pleasure to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Sure.
Well, I grew up in Gonzales, Louisiana, and like most kids that live in a rural area, I just joined the band in fourth or fifth grade. Just doing band, whatever was in the band book. Learn my scales and learn how to read. But then I started to hear, like, my sister sent me a recording of Charlie Parker and Ornette Coleman and Count Basie. It was actually her husband who sent it to me when I was about 13 or 14.
Yeah.
And the first time I heard Charlie Parker, I was like, okay, this band stuff is cool, but what is that? Like, I want to do whatever that is.
Right.
So that's what kind of got me started and got me out of just being in the band and in the one ensemble and all that, actually into, like, I want to be a saxophonist. I want to be an artist, a musician.
Yeah, right.
And from there, I took lessons with this great teacher in Baton Rouge, Ed Winston, who would, he wasn't, I think jazz wasn't really his specialty, but reading and being a multi-reed player was. So, right. I would just sit in front of him and read and mess up, and he would, whack me in the back of the head. No, it's an eighth note. Rest. You gotta, you know how it goes.
Sure.
And then he started telling me about other folks like Alvin Baptiste has this camp at Southern in the summer. You should try to see if you can hook up with him. He's probably doing more of what you want to be doing. So somehow or other, I got to enroll in Alvin Baptiste jazz camp when I was about 15.
Nice.
This would have been 1990 or so. And that's where I met Roland Guerin, and I think I might have even met Mike Esnault then.
Yeah.
But most importantly is I met Alvin, and Alvin sort of put me on the path that I'm still on today, which is like trying to figure out how to be a musician, how to get better, how to play the saxophone better, how to express whatever I, want to express better, all of that stuff. He's the one who sort of put me on that path. And I think that's about when I met you. It was about 1990, 91 maybe.
Right.
And I wasn't really playing. I wasn't really improvising yet. I was still kind of just really listening and trying to figure it out. So I couldn't really play when we met. If you remember, I couldn't really improvise. Like I could play my horn, but I couldn't really. And I wouldn't solo either. I was scared. I was completely petrified. Didn't want to stick my little toe in the water and and be open to that scrutiny. Yeah, but I just started as a regular band kid, just in the band, trying to figure out what to do with my time, and just learn that I really love music, and then I especially loved Charlie Parker, loved Ornette Coleman, Lester Young. Like just hearing those cats, it was like, man, these cats are talking about something that's way deeper than I can understand now, and I want to get to a point where I understand it.
Yeah,
and I'm still not there. But I'm still searching for it,
We all are, man. That's the beauty of this music.
Yeah.
You mentioned Mike Esnote. He was a previous guest on this program, and he definitely was somebody that we grew and learned from each other, and we still learning from each other. I think the cool thing about that route that we took, having a chance to work on our craft at such an early age, afforded us such opportunity to participate in such all-star groups as the All-State that I mentioned earlier. Because what that did, man, just thinking back and reflecting on those memories, we had a chance to, meet people from all different parts of the state that were sharing the same kind of, interests and seriousness that we were. I was coming from New Orleans. You were coming from Gonzales. We had cats from Shreveport, Alexandria, all the kind of places, man. And the one thing that I remember, I don't even know if you remember this, man, but you say you weren't necessarily improvising at the time, or you were a little shy at the time. That was not my impression of you.
Interesting.
Man, I'm telling you, one of the lasting memories of that time was it was like four of us in the hotel room, and we all just kind of talked and bonded and got to know each other. Man, it was you, myself, another saxophonist, and a trumpet player. And and we were just it was just so cool to meet people on that same vibe. And the thing that I remember is going to bed late at night. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm just laying there, and you are in the closet practicing. I'm like, man. The thing that was so killing about this is this was one of the first times that I knew, man, this is a calling. This is something I got to do. Because I not that I practice, but that night, but I'm laying in the bed listening to a cat practicing in the closet, and I'm like listening to all of these things that he's running through. Man, that was very therapeutic. It helped me, kind of relax me. I'm like, man, this is cool. This is the type of vibe that I want to be a part of. Just be around cats that's dealing and soaking this music up to the point of what we practicing in the closet. That was awesome.
That's interesting, man. I'm glad to hear your perspective, because I remember it different, and our memories are they don't really work so good. Humans just kind of like piece together stuff to make up memories. Right. But now that you mention it, I do remember it was late at night, and I didn't know what else to do. I don't sleep. I never really slept very much. I still don't sleep very much. So, But your point. I take your point. It's like meeting you, and I think it was Peter Meehan. Was the other saxophone player.
And meeting you cats. That name Eddie Spencer, man.
Eddie. Yeah, you're right, man. I saw Eddie at the Funky Butt 15 years ago or something. Yeah. I was playing a gig with Jason Marsalis, and he showed up.
Right. Yeah.
But you're right. It was meeting you cats the same thing for me. I was like, man, I think I found my tribe. Like I think, growing up in a rural place, I played sports and all that stuff too, which was more acceptable. But being the band nerd wasn't really acceptable. That was like the kids, they didn't really understand that. They were like,
right,
so you
right,
want to
right.
just sit in a closet and play a saxophone? Like, what is what's that supposed to do?
Right, right.
But when I found you cats, I was like, okay, it's not just me. Like other cats they're hearing this too. Something is speaking to them, and they're like, okay, I have to pursue this.
It ain't just me. It ain't just There's a scene. There's a fraternity. Yeah.
And for a young person, that's very important to find find that you belong somewhere.
That's right.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's all right, man. Yeah, man. So from that point, where was your where did you study? Where did you go to college? Who did you study with, and sort of to take it to the next level?
Well, I studied at first. I just kind of studied with Bat, with Alvin Baptiste, and he would. I don't know if you ever really hung out with Alvin, but he would do stuff. I would go in his office in between, him teaching at Southern, and he would be, all right, what you listening to? Oh, I'm listening to, David Sanborn, or I'm listening to Cannonball Adderley. Oh, well, play me some. He's like, I'm like, well, I don't know how yet. He's like, all right, okay. All right, well, you said you're listening to Charlie, Charlie Parker? Yeah. He's like, this tune, Now's the Time? No, he showed it to me. So I started playing it, and it started getting good to me, just the melody. And then he's like, okay, cool. Now start up a half step and play the same thing. And I was like, whoa, how do you do that? So studying with him was like the first sort of foray into improvisation and into how to practice, how to listen. But then I got a scholarship to UNO and went to Loyola. And it's a crazy story. I went to Loyola, auditioned. They gave me a partial scholarship. So my dad was like, well, you're going to have to get a job so you can pay the rest, blah, blah, blah. I was like, that's, whatever, that's no problem. But he was like, why don't we go to UNO too? Because they might give you a full scholarship. Yeah. And then you don't have to work. And then you could just immerse yourself in the music. So we went to UNO. I auditioned for the classical department, and they said, we'll give you a full scholarship. We rarely get classical saxophonists here, but, Sure. So I was like, this is great. So I'm leaving the PAC at UNO. I'm on cloud 9. And I see Roland Guerin walk. Like, man, what are you doing here? Because I met him with Alvin. And I was like, oh, I just auditioned for the classical department. They gave me a full scholarship. And he was like, classical department? He's like, well, that's cool. But what about, have you met Mr. Ellis or Harold or Steve Maskowski or any of these guys? I was like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So he grabbed me. He's like, come here, man. So we just go and he opens this office door, and there's Ellis and Harold Baptiste and Steve Maskowski, and I think Charlie Blanc was there, the history at UNO. Right. And they were wrapping up. It was the day of auditions was over, and Roland was like, hey man, can y'all just listen to this cat play? And I was like, man, what are you doing? Like, I don't even, He's like, just play a blues, bro. So I played some bird blues, and I was so scared, I just played his solo because I memorized like 2 choruses or something. Right. So they heard that, and they were like, okay, all right. So Ellis took me into his office and basically offered me a full scholarship to be in the jazz studies department. Nice. And the coolest thing happened, which my dad, who's just a great dad, but just a working man like most people, was like, okay, he's got a scholarship, so that's great, but who's gonna look after him? And Ellis just looks at him incredulously, like, what are you talking about? That's not my job. I'm a teacher. Like, I'm not babysitting this little kid. And my father was insistent, like, well, he needs someone to look after him, at least somebody to keep an eye on him. We can't keep an eye on him from Gonzalez. And Ellis was like, I think just to get us out of his office, he was just like, okay, man, all right, I'll keep an eye on him, whatever, keep track of him. And I think he was just saying it as a like, all right, great, now y'all get out of my office so I can right. go home to my family or to my gig or whatever. Yeah. But he did indeed look after me. I mean, I would go and bug him and sit in with him. And eventually he just put me in his band because I think he was tired of seeing me trying to sit in with him.
That's awesome, man. And that's certainly the next chapter we definitely are going to touch upon.
Sure.
But right before we get to that, though, I'm curious. When we first met, and the beginning of your career, you started out on alto, and now you've amassed this great performing career on tenor. So when did you make the switch from alto to tenor, and how did that go?
Sure. It was kind of a long process because I started playing soprano in about 1997 or 8.
Okay.
I had this gig, and I got this gig in Turkey, in Ankara, Turkey. It was 3 months, and I said, "Well, I'm already ahead of my classes in school. I can take a semester off. It doesn't matter." I think I was finished all of my academic stuff at that point. It was just music classes. So nice. I bought a soprano. I was like, I'm going to shed on this while I'm there and see if I like it, see if I can develop a sound. And so I started playing in B flat then, and I noticed that I hear better when I'm playing a B flat instrument. And what I mean is there's less math that my brain does.
Sure.
I hear the note and I just can play the note. I don't have to think about it. So that was about 1997, 98. And then in 1999, I bought William Terry's old Bundy tenor saxophone for like $100.
And William Terry, he eventually switched to bass, didn't he?
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was a great saxophone player too. I think he was playing with the Soul Rebels at the time.
And for those in the audience, we've mentioned a couple of musicians kind of sporadically. Roland Guerin is a famed New Orleans bass player who I think he was actually from Baton Rouge. And he's played some with Alan Toussaint, Dr. John, and he's got his own fabulous projects out under his own name. And so he's doing great things. And we just mentioned William Terry, a cat from the scene, a big cat from the 90s scene in New Orleans. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he sold me this tenor saxophone, and I would just kind of play around with it. I had no intention of switching to tenor. I had no intention of developing a sound. I literally would just kind of mess around with it.
Sure.
And then I did the Jazz Fest in like the year 2000 or 99. And Branford, of all people, Branford Marsalis came up to me after and he said, "Hey, bro, you're playing tenor on alto. You need to switch to tenor." and you know, I was kind of like taken aback, like, how you just gonna tell somebody to switch instruments, you know, like, you know, but he was right. And he said, you know, Winston told me the same thing.
Because he started out on alto.
Yeah, that's right. And it's funny because Winston is actually his little brother, but his younger brother, but he told him, "Hey, man, you're playing tenor. You should just play tenor. You're trying to play tenor on alto." And he was right. I mean, everybody I listened to was Eddie Harris, was Train, Wayne, Johnny Griffin, Coleman, I listened to Bird and Cannonball and Ornette. Like, those are the only real alto cats that I really had a reference. And I listened to Kenny Garrett a lot, but I realized I liked him because he was playing kind of like tenor on alto.
Exactly.
And so after Branford told me that, I kind of was insulted for a little while. And when when I got over myself, a week or so later, I got the tenor fixed, and I actually took it out and I started playing it on gigs. So I would bring my tenor, my alto, and soprano to every gig I played, and I would just make myself play tenor on at least a tune, it was like, oh, let me see what it's like, what it feels like, and it was like, oh, I feel like I'm a tenor player. I mean, everything that I've wanted to play, I can play on here, you know, because it's like with alto, I was like, I feel like I'm running out of bottom and I'm running out of top. And it's like on tenor, is weird that you have more at the bottom, but it's actually more usable space at the top too. Really,
that's right.
I mean, if you have strong enough chops for the altissimo, it's like you can play way higher and it sounds better because it's a bigger horn and it's a bigger, more robust sound. So once I started figuring that out, and then I would get feedback, of course. You know, people were like, "Bruh, stop! I love your alto playing, but you're a tenor player." So
yeah, man.
So that was about 2000. And 2000, like by the time 2001, 2002 came, I didn't bring my alto on gigs anymore. Right. Because then it got too confusing. You know, you're playing in E flat and B flat. For those listening, the tenor saxophone is in the key of B flat. The alto saxophone is in the key of E flat. And to cut through all that, it's just they're in different keys. And so one tune is in two different keys if you're playing those two different horns. So it's just confusing to some of us.
And if I recall correctly, it was around that same time when you made the complete switch that you did one of your first recordings.
Yeah, I did the recording, my actually only recording called Perpetual Motion. I think we recorded
That's what it was. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember when we recorded it, because when we recorded that, I was actively playing tenor a lot.
Right.
And so it was almost like, well, let me get this. I'm hearing this stuff on alto. Let me get it out, and then I'll probably not play alto too much anymore.
Yeah.
But I heard this music on alto. Let me write it. Let me get it out, and then that'll be that.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So when you mentioned earlier you were soaking up the scene, hanging with Ellis and by the bandstand, sitting in on the gigs, and that's when you mentioned that led to your being, kind of given that golden call to join his band.
Yeah.
When did that take place?
I'm trying to think of exactly. I know I started hounding him immediately. As soon as I was at UNO, it was like back in the clock. Like I literally spent every waking moment either playing or listening or out on a gig. So around 1994 or so, I started going to every Friday. I'd go to his gig, and I don't know if you remember this at the scene, Clarence, but at that time there was Caldy's Coffee Shop where we could play.
That's right.
There was Cafe Brazil.
Right.
There was Cafe Istanbul on Frenchman. Right. And so every day there was a jam session somewhere. And you could play with Nicholas Payton. You could play with Brian Blade. You could play with Chris Thomas.
No telling what instrument he would be sitting in on.
And Nicholas would play every instrument.
That's
and
right.
Embarrass and not really embarrass, just show everybody up, So that was all in the early 90s, 94 to like 96. And I think I was he put me in the band in LeBron 96, because in 95, I think is the first jazz fest I played with him.
Okay.
And I wasn't in the band yet. He was just like, I have some arrangements, I want to get you and his other son, Delphio, and Antoine Dry to come and be the front line. Yeah. So I started kind of doing gigs with him around 95, and I think I was firmly in the band in 96.
Nice. So, man, what tell us the indelible lessons and experiences. What did you learn from all of those years of making a transition from being a student of his in an academia setting at UNO to actually being a member of the Ellis Marsalis quintet, sextet, whatever it was?
Sure. I learned he didn't really tell me much about what I'm supposed to do on the bandstand. Like he's only literally told me what to play one time, and it was very broad. And we were playing this arrangement of My Favorite Things, and he said, "Hey man, you're not John Coltrane. Nobody else is. You can't play like that. And it's not to say that you're physically unable. That's not you. You have to play like you, and you have to figure out what that means." And that was like light bulb. Like, oh, okay. That was literally the only thing he's ever told me about what to play. Most of what he would tell me through his playing, which was, we never had rehearsals then. He never gave me a set list. I would just show up to the gig and he would just start playing tunes. And I knew about 5 of the tunes that he knew. So I literally learned how to play on his gig. Like I literally learned tunes on the gig while we were playing them. And and he would play a melody and then look at me and like, can you hear the changes? And I'd be like, no, play it another time, play it one more time. Literally it was like he was like baby steps, like really helping me, like he would, okay, you never heard this tune Broadway before? Okay, I'll play the melody and I'll play a chorus, and then now you have to play. And that's how we would do it. And we never talked about it. That's just what would happen. Nice. So I literally just got my butt kicked every Friday, which was joyous. I needed it. I needed to get my butt kicked, and that's what would happen every Friday, because there would be 70% of the tunes I didn't know,
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there trying to figure it out. And, unlike you, my friend, I don't have perfect pitch. So, it's a little, it's a little rough, when you're just literally hearing, you don't know what key something's in. And I'm like, okay, I think it's in G. I think the bridge goes to the 6 and then the 4. Okay. And then you just step out and you go. And I would screw up and mess up and make wrong changes. And he wouldn't say anything, but he would just show me with his plan, like, no, it's that. Like, you're playing it minor, it's dominant. Next time you'll hear it. So it was beautiful. It was like, it was like an unspoken lesson. And just listening to him play melody the way he did taught me
phrase
melody. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I was thinking, man, if I could phrase or just play melody as easy as it's seemingly as easy as he can,
sure,
I would be completely content,
sure.
Still chasing that, still trying to play melody like that,
sure. And you mentioned the Friday nights, just to let everybody know who doesn't. It was decades of residency at one of the most prestigious jazz clubs, not just in the city of New Orleans, but in the country, Snug Harbor. And for 25, 30 years, he held down those Friday nights over there. And that's where a lot of stuff went down. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like 1986 until when he passed in 2020.
So, sure.
Just to loop back real quick, another thing that he told me, because he never told me much. Like, I mean, I'm dead serious. Like, most of the stuff that I learned from him was on the bandstand through the music.
Wow.
Which I think is a beautiful way to learn.
That's right.
But he would tell me stuff like, man, you're playing a lot of stuff on the saxophone, but it's like, you can practice all day and in the closet and have all this stuff, but none of that matters when you get to the bandstand. None of that matters because if we're not doing that and you're doing that, then you're doing something by yourself. We're doing this. You know what I'm saying? We're over here playing in here in the pocket, and you're playing all this stuff. It's like, until you really get a handle on what it is that you're playing and really understand how to play all that stuff, you might want to really check into what the band is doing, and it literally taught me, like, to really improvise is an exercise in patience, and it's a meditation, and it's like, it's really just listening mostly. It's a lot less playing and more listening, and I learned that a lot from him too, from his example, but also from him telling me, like, you can't really learn how to play in the closet. You have to play with other people to learn how to play. Because the music involves all the parts. So you might be able to play 64th notes in the closet. That's great. But when you come to the bandstand, we're over here playing on the old rugged cross, and that ain't got nothing to do with what we doing.
Exactly. That's true words of wisdom, man. You mentioned something earlier about him advising you to just focus on being Derek Douget, being the best you that can be, not anybody else.
Yes.
That kind of leads to something that I've always wondered with you throughout the years playing with Ellis. Just how did you, and I guess that kind of answers this question, but how did you handle, if there was any pressure of playing in the shadows of, the father of one of our contemporary heroes, Ellis Marsalis?
I mean, it was terrifying, and at the same time completely freeing, because it's like, I can't do that. Whatever he's doing is great for him, but it's not for me to be fooling with whatever that is. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's not my story. That's got nothing to do with me. That's his story. That's his story to tell, So it really was no pressure at all, because I was like, what he is and what I am are not the same thing.
Nice.
We play the same instrument, but we're not the same thing. We can't be. And if I start to think we are, I'm in trouble.
There you go.
That's
all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful, man. Tell us about a little bit of your relationship and the things, that you soaked up from Mr. Harold Baptiste. You mentioned Alvin. You just got finished talking about Mr. E.
Mm-hmm.
The late great Harold Baptiste, man.
Harold, man, he was more my mentor before Ellis because I actually took his classes.
Yeah.
So I would be in class with him, either jazz combo or improv class. And he was the first cat to really just clown me. I mean, and there's no other way to say it.
Yeah.
There's no way to put it politely. We were on this, I think it was my third year at UNO, and they selected me to go tour Europe and represent the University of New Orleans.
Sure.
And Harold came with us, and he was still playing his horn at the time. And
Right.
every night when we would play, he would come up and either play Beautiful Old Ladies, which is his composition. And by the way, Harold is like the preeminent, jazz composer. I mean, his compositions are timeless. Or he would play My Funny Valentine.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a study in melody and, again, in patience.
Yeah.
A study in listening. We're out in Europe playing on some gigs had really bad pianos and he's still just sitting there finding the right notes to blend with the out of tune piano,
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like that, which was like is next level music playing. Like that's next level. Like this A on the piano is out of tune. So I'm gonna avoid anything that's gonna clash with that, and I'm gonna play, and that kind of stuff just blew my mind. I was like, oh, there's levels to this.
Yeah, man.
But he would hear me play all night, and I would come, I'm in a sweat. I've been playing all these notes, and he would just start laughing at me, and he would just be in this quiet way, just kind of laughing, and I'm like, man, why you laughing at me, bro? He's like, man, you playing all the notes, you ain't saying nothing.
Whoa.
And I was like, yeah, okay. And this is me and him were tight, so it wasn't like he was saying something to be negative. It wasn't like people do that negative reinforcement thing. That's not what he was doing. He was just being straight up like, hey man, you can play a lot of notes and that's great, but that doesn't mean anything. You have to say something with those notes.
That's right.
And then I would hear him play, My Funny Valentine, and he would play, 1% of the notes that I played, and it sounded so much better.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was the cat. I could just go to his house and just hang out and listen to records with him and just talk about life and talk about his philosophy. I mean, he was that cat for me. He was like North Star. It was like, man, I just want to be like this cat, man.
That's all right, man.
Yeah.
So, man, you got this great pedigree and track record, and under the tutelage of so many greats, starting, with your high school instructors, leading to Mr. Alvin Baptiste, on to Harold Baptiste, Mr. Ellis Marsalis, Steve Mazakowski, Dr. Blanc, all of these great mentors. And that's kind of, put you on a path to what you're doing now as a performer in your own right, particularly when you add in what you're doing on the academic front as the leader of the Jazz and Heritage School.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to my high school band director, Miss Sheely Bell, who actually is still teaching today.
Nice.
So shout out to Miss Sheely. She's the one probably most responsible for me, for me wanting to be a teacher and knowing and thinking like I really love sharing music with people, and that's what teaching is. Ellis and Harold and them, I think, gave me this sort of feeling like, man, I've been so blessed, and these cats just shared everything with me.
Yeah.
I have to give that to everybody else. I have to, I have to share that. But yeah, I the way that came about was just kind of random. I was actually about to leave to go on tour. I think I was going to somewhere far, like Indonesia, Jakarta, or somewhere in Indonesia, and Ellis of all people was telling me, hey man, there's this job at the Jazz and Heritage Foundation. It's, you know, the leader of the Heritage School of Music. He's like, I think this is for you. You should try to get this gig. You know, it's not then it wasn't a full-time job. It is now, but then it wasn't.
Sure.
He was like, it's not that time consuming, and it's right up your alley. You know,
and in the
organized.
beginning, you guys started out at Dillard University, right?
Well, yeah, actually, before Katrina, there were multiple campuses. There were campuses at Lusher. There was a campus at Dillard, and I think there was a campus on the West Bank too.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I applied for the job, left for Indonesia, didn't even think anything of it, you know. And when I got back, I got called in to do an interview.
Yeah.
And they gave me the job, and since then.
Nice.
It's now a full-time job, and then it was about 60 students a week, and now before the pandemic anyway, we were up to about 360 students that we were serving every week. So it's grown quite a bit. We have a beginner program now. There's the Nord vocal program. There's a beat making program. There's a sound engineering program, along with just the Heritage School. And you know, being a teacher, as I know you teach too sometimes, or I don't know if you're teaching a lot these days, but you know, it's, to me, there's almost no difference being a player and a teacher. It's like this, it's almost just two sides of the same coin, right? You know, because all of my mentors were teachers and players. So for me, it's, I'm doing this. Yeah, I'm doing the same exact thing. It's what once I met Alvin, I was like, that's the cat right there. I'm going to do that, you know? Yeah. And then I met Harold, and it was the same thing. And then you meet Ellis, and it's like all these cats are professors, and they're also players, and great players too.
And it's great that you mentioned that, because it's true from what I've been able to see. You definitely took the page from what we learned from, you know, those studies, whereas, you know, the Heritage School has assembled a great staff of players, not just teachers. There's a difference. Yeah. So you got some players. You've got some players who are imparting this knowledge to the kids, and you got some great kids with the individual master classes and the performing ensembles, and you combine that with the thing I really like is with the today's technology, having them dealing with the iReal B, and that type of platforms to be able to you know, practice on the improv and things of that nature. So it's really, you know, the classrooms are top notch technology all across the board. So it's really something to be proud of.
Thank you. I mean, I'm just a part of it. You know, like you said, there's these great teachers: Ricky Sebastian, Don Vappy, Leah Chase, Peter Harris. I'm sure Michael Palera, you know, Leon Brown, all, you know, great musicians, and also great individuals and great teachers. Yeah. And our philosophy is mostly, you know, a lot of these students are sort of, you know, this is kind of controversial, but they're almost overscheduled in a way. Like they have so much to do that I didn't want to be another thing that they, you know, were, I guess, not interested in going, or, you know, like, oh, I got to go do this thing. Right. So we didn't want to make it like it's an assignment or it's a drag. We want to make it like, listen, we're just trying to help you be a better you, whatever you want to be, whatever that is. You know, we want to help you be that. We want to help you be more conscientious. We want to help you teach yourself and learn how to teach yourself better. You know, and it's less about me teaching people how to play, but I'm just going to help you express yourself better. You know, as Kid Jordan, who is also a teacher and actually started the Heritage School of Music. Yes. Kid Jordan. He's the same way. He's never going to try to tell somebody how to play something. It's more, for me, like, teach you how to play your instrument better so that you can express yourself how you want to. That's right. You know, it's not like you need to play these licks or these patterns. It's never really any of that. It's more, what do you want to say? We'll show you how to do that, you know.
So you guys have you guys have a year-round program, which includes a summer program as well.
Absolutely, yeah. We go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say what's the plan going forward for the fall program? And if you like to give out some information on how interested students and parents can contact the school to start to inquire about looking into some interest for the fall semester.
Sure. Little housekeeping. Yeah, go to heritageschoolofmusic.org, or you can go to the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation.org and click on the What We Do link, and you'll be able to find registration. For the fall, we're planning on going forward with in-person classes in the fall.
Great.
Unless there's, knock on wood, unless the Delta variant gets bad and there's another big surge of COVID, we plan to just go back in the fall in person.
Awesome. And man, y'all do so many great things with the kids, along with the top-notch instruction. You provide high-profile, high-level performing opportunities for them, such as French Quarter Festival, Jazz Festival, your own concerts and recitals. So it's a great program to be involved with. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I was gonna, I didn't want to make people. We actually teach, we teach basic music theory and music reading and all that stuff too. And the higher level kids who can already kind of play, what I was trying to clarify is we're never teaching them what to play.
Right.
We're trying to help them express themselves better. That's all. It's not like, okay, to pass my class, you got to play X, Y, Z. It's more or less like, are you a conscientious person? Are you, are you working? Because if I can see you're working, then you're all right. If you're working hard on what we're trying to do, then you're all right. That's all that really matters to me.
Awesome. So, man, any other latest projects or collaborations that you're working on that you like to share with the folks?
Well, I'm currently writing music for another CD, I guess, album, MP3, whatever it's called these days. A project. I'm working on music for a project, and I've actually been studying with the great Mr. Roger Dickerson for on and off, not as consistent as I'd like, for a while, and I'm just working on composition, and I feel like I have some things to say, so I'd like to put them down and record them. Over the pandemic, actually, since we couldn't be in person, I had this residency that was supposed to be in Santa Barbara, and we actually ended up getting funded to just record everything in the studio. So we recorded an educational video for them, and then we recorded a sort of like gig, a night in New Orleans kind of gig for them. So I've been doing stuff kind of like that in the pandemic, a lot of studio stuff.
Nice. Well, man, this has been great. An extreme pleasure to speak with you like this and go behind the world of Mr. Derek Douget. And ladies and gentlemen, look out for him, search him, and check out what he's got going on. He's a fabulous player. And listen, man, whenever you get any progress on your projects and compositions, certainly come back and let us know, man. We'll certainly be happy to talk to you more about it and promote that. And anything you got going on with the Heritage School, certainly let us know as well, man. It's awesome stuff what you're doing in the community.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, I'll be at Snug quite a bit in the coming months with Jason
Marsalis.
Yeah,
that's it back up. Yeah, you're on the Friday.
Yeah. So I'll be on with Jason Marsalis and on a lot of Saturdays with Herlin Riley too. So
okay, so Fridays and Saturdays, look up at Snug Harbor. I think it's snugjazz.net, I believe, is the website. So look for him with Jason Marsalis, Herlin Riley, and his own projects, man. You won't be disappointed. Derek, man, this is great, and we'll be seeing you on the scene, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you, man. It's great to talk to you, man.
All right. Take care.
All right, bro.